back to the open arms of a love that's way too deep. And if somebody loves you, they always love you. I look in your eyes, and I know that you still care for me. Welcome to the JB Font channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this Tuesday afternoon. Today, it is March 18th, 2025. Of course, you guys have me. Hello, everybody that's watching on my channel. And I'm also dual streaming today on RBN as well as on Rumble. So welcome back, everybody. Good to have you here to join in on the conversation that we had that's ongoing. Just to let you guys know, the JB Font channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. So you can find me there on Thursdays for the Savvy and JB show and Sundays for the JB show. Also, if you guys have not as well, you guys can also please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because that also helps us be able to reach more people, to inform and activate. So thank you so very much for that. If you guys have not already, you can subscribe to my Substack at jbfaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you guys have that there. And also, if you would like to ask me any questions, you can go ahead and ask me via QBounty. I do video responses to questions, or also I do video reactions as well. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to qbounty.com/JBFaunt. So thank you very much for that there. Yeah, I was singing a little bit of Whitney Houston before we started, because for some reason her songs have been on my mind all day. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know if there's some energy in the air or what. Damn, this tea is good. But I'm gonna tell you right now, shout out to Whitney. She was a real one. You know how when you add just the right amount of honey and right amount of lemon? See, I wish I had some more ginger for this. I gotta get some more ginger, because I typically try to put ginger in my tea too, because ginger is the anti-inflammatory as well. But yeah, so it's good. With that being said, welcome to everybody. Let's get into the chat and say hello to everybody. All right, everybody, let's go in. Ashura coming in first saying, wasn't Nick going on a 2-week hiatus? He is on a 2-week hiatus. And so with that, I find it more beneficial to, because I know he'll be posting his hotspots, but I find it beneficial to also keep content going on RBN between myself and the Savvy and JB show. And then when Rome wants to come in, speak, then he has that as well. So it's kind of like, bolstering in, the little bit of the absence that's left, for Nick, so that he can get his rest and be able to, center himself. Because here's the thing about being in this space that a lot of people don't realize. It is stressful. I'm not talking about just being in a content creator on YouTube. Well, that has its own different stresses as well. But we have that as well as the added stress of reading these articles, seeing these stories, having to talk about these stories on a consistent basis. That is emotionally and mentally draining, right? You notice how every few weeks or so, Savvy's like, well, I ain't going to be live for these days, because I got some things for family or whatever. She's keeping she's keeping herself at a point where she can have the bandwidth to be able to handle this, because we cover heavy stories all the time. And so I think it's important for us to take our breaks when necessary. Those of you who are activists, it is not bad for you to step away, to take a break for a second, to re-energize yourself so that you can go back into the fight. It's like being at a job and you have to go on your 15-minute break or your lunch break. That is to keep you going so that you can continue to go. Because after your first win, if you don't have another win, guess what? That second win ain't coming. And so you have to take a breather. And so I think it's important that people realize that you're not a machine. You're a human being. So, take your breaks when necessary. Know your limitations. And then once you've gotten enough rest, get back into fight. All right. Yes, Kat says JB's just info and description. Yes, this is the JB show. So I'm dual streaming right now. Who else? We have Radical Education says, let's go. It's Unk again. I've reached Unk status for some of y'all. Oh, Matt, what? Okay. All right, cool. All right. Devin coming in saying, hey, JB, hope you have been well. I have been doing very well. Thank you so very much. Q Bounty is basically a platform. Actually, I should pull it up. Let's see. Let me share it with you since you're asking. Hang on. So Qbounty is basically a website where you can ask questions of different creators, and then we can give a video response. So think of it as almost like a super chat outside of YouTube. Hang on. Well, here it is. Okay. So let me go straight to the website. Okay. So I'm going to share this with you. Sure. So, and the link for me is in the description, but it says connect deeper with your fans, monetize your passion. So you can look at the creators. And if you go to find creators, you have case study QBs in here, Sabby Sabs, Nico House, and myself. So we're some of the early people within Qbounty. So if you guys actually do have any questions that you want a video response to, or if you have any videos that you would like for people to react to, you can do that. But it's almost like giving a super chat, because it is a program where it's like, okay, here's $5. I want to know your thoughts about this, right? Or here's $5. Can you react to this video? It's like that. So basically, it's a response platform. And so I highly recommend a lot of people get into Qbounty, primarily because you may have questions that may not be relevant to a stream, or it's kind of like asking a question on like when Sabby Sabs does her After Dark, but instead it's like, I get to it when I get to it. Not get to it when I get to it, but it's like maybe you thought of it like sometime this morning. You would just like an answer, right? So it's a way to do that. It's also a way to support your favorite content creators that are in the independent media. So it's a great website. So if you would like to, the link is in the description. And if you guys want to subscribe to Case Study QB, Sabby Sabs, or Nico House, they're right there too. So it's great. Qbounty is actually a really good website. I'm very impressed with it, actually. And I think there's a mobile app too. So there you go. We have Traveler's Wolf coming in saying, JB, good to see ya. Was JB in the Harry Potter films? I actually never actually sat down and watched Harry Potter. Though, everybody tells me I'm Hufflepuff when it comes to the houses, I guess it is. So, whatever that means. But, yeah. So, thank you very much for that. It's the jumper. What jumper? You mean the balloon? Sure says, is Q Bounty hard on censorship or soon to be until Zionists get their tentacles in it? No, it's not. I've reacted to some things that I probably would never react to on this channel. And it's not that it's anything bad. It's just different, something that I normally wouldn't react to. I think I reacted to something from Cameron. Yeah. So if you go in there, you can actually watch those. I made some of those public. So if you want to, you can just watch them because I've already answered them. But yeah, so yeah. You see, we have Topher 1010 says, good afternoon, RBN fam. Good to see you. My brother from another KD Lewis says, it's been a long time, but finally catching a live, brother. Good to see you. Good to see you too. KD Lewis is also part of the RBN Orlando chapter. Also has his own mutual aid program out in the East Coast in Florida. So everybody give KD Lewis some love and a shout out as well, because he's doing the damn thing here in Florida, helping out all of the neighbors and peeps. So thank you very much. All right. So with that being said, with all the I forgot to take a look at the Rumble side. Sorry. Okay, we're good on Rumble. All right, so let's get into the subjects today. I'm going to do the heaviest one first because it's heavy, right? And I always want to end lighter. But it's going to be a necessary topic that we're going to be talking about. This is going to be getting into foreign policy and war. So hold on to your hats, folks. We got a lot to talk about, but good to see you. Johnny says, hello, bro. Good to see you, Johnny. And then Comrade Beer says, hey, good to see you in here. All right. So what's the topics for today? Well, let's get into the thumbnail. We got three. It says Trump green lights genocide. So we're going to be talking about any immediate. Towards the middle of our show, we're going to talk about DOGE defense hypocrisy. So I'm going to be talking about the hypocrisy. We're actually going to be reacting to a video from More Perfect Union in regards to how the Department of Government Efficiency is turning a blind eye to the Department of Defense. So we're going to be getting into that. And then our final segment will be insurance scams homeowners. So this is going to be a local story out of Florida, but we're talking about insurance. And this is going to have ramifications for everybody here in the state of Florida. So especially those of you who are homeowners, but even those of us who are renters, because when we're renters, our landlords are homeowners. So we gotta get into that as well, because I think that sometimes these things may start in one state and then they gravitate towards other states as well. So as of recently, over the weekend, Donald Trump has been more forceful about going after anyone who is upholding Palestinian resistance. Now, we talked about Mahmoud Khalil and how he basically, Mahmoud Khalil is a permanent resident, and he expressed his opinion and utilizing free speech to talk about how he wants a free Palestine. According to the Trump administration, to them, that is a bridge too far. And so they want to deport people like Mahmoud Khalil. Well, Donald Trump has ramped up further in regards to the liberation of Palestine by actually going against Yemen and now green lighting Benjamin Netanyahu to do further genocide in Gaza. And so now he's also threatening Iran. So I want to get into this because this is also very important. And before we get into that, let me just share this really quick, because a lot of times people think, well, we had a ceasefire and so things were chill for the last couple months. No, they weren't. They were not at all. Israel has continued to murder Palestinians despite a ceasefire, because Israel they just don't want to stop. So let's get into this really quick. Let me share this with you guys first. We're going to go into this article in Electronic Intifada. If you guys want to know more about what's going on in the Middle East, especially as regards to Palestine, I highly recommend that you bookmark and go to this website for your news for that area so you can keep up to date on what's going on. But out of the Electronic Intifada says, Israel is still killing 3 people per day in Gaza. This article came out 4 days ago. So we're not going to read the whole thing. We're just going to read just a little bit. So it says, in Gaza, Israel's closure of all crossings has continued for almost 2 weeks. Palestinians are reporting severe water and food shortages as Israel uses starvation as a weapon of genocide, and the rights group Al-Haq started. So, as you can see, the tweet right here, Palestinian human rights organizations condemn Israel's use of starvation as a weapon of genocide. This is a war crime, by the way, everybody. It's a war crime, folks, because the thing is like, this is collective punishment against the people that are civilians. You're starving the civilians to get at another group. That is collective punishment. You want to know what else is collective punishment that has happened? We've had collective punishment dealt with us on this very soil. It was called 9/11. Now, despite the reasons behind what Osama bin Laden did, because he was focused on what was going on in Palestine, if you actually read the letter from Osama bin Laden, I understand his motivations, but I don't agree with his actions, because Osama bin Laden ended up killing 3,000 Americans to get at the American government. And that's the problem with the collective punishment, is that you end up harming people who have nothing to do with what is going on between factions that are fighting. Is it really a fight? It's more of it is a genocide, but you have the Palestinian resistance versus Israel. And instead of going directly after Palestinian resistance, they're actually going after the people who are innocent citizens, civilians. So this is what they've done. Let's continue on further. And this article says, Israel's decision to reimpose a total blockade of all humanitarian aid entering the Gaza Strip, particularly during the month of Ramadan, is yet another example of Israel violating the ceasefire agreement and provides further proof into its manifest intent to eliminate Gaza's population by creating conditions of life calculated to bring about their destruction, and continuing breach of provisional measures of the International Court of Justice. The Palestinian Non-Governmental Organizations Network and the Association of International Development Agencies declared in a joint statement that the January 19th ceasefire proved a brief window for humanitarian operations to scale up. In just weeks, the aid organizations delivered food, medicine, reopened medical facilities, launched vaccination campaigns. During this period, the group said that humanitarian actors demonstrated that when they are finally given an enabling environment, they can do their jobs and deliver. And Israel provided that enabling delivery of aid was only a matter of will. a reality that has now underscored by choosing to use humanitarian aid as a negotiation tactic. The aid group Islamic Relief stated on March 11th that the aid trucks loaded with food and other essential aid are already in waiting to enter Gaza, but are being blocked just a few miles from desperate civilians. Gaza's entire infrastructure has been systematically destroyed by Israeli attacks, including its ability to feed itself. More than 80% of Gaza's agricultural land and more than 2/3 of its agricultural wells have been damaged or destroyed, and most cattle have been killed, leaving families in Gaza now almost entirely dependent on imported supplies. The scarcity has caused prices in local markets to skyrocket, making even the most basic necessities unaffordable for the poorest and most vulnerable. Here is the thing. I want you to think about this. If we were to go to war with another country, let's say hypothetically, I don't think China would ever escalate anything because China ain't about that. But let's just say hypothetically in another universe, China says, okay, we're going to escalate things. And then they decide to destroy like 80% of our agriculture, our farms and our ranches in this country. And then our areas of water are taken out by this country. Can you imagine the amount of carnage that would happen because of that? How many people would starve to death? How many people would, be subject to other diseases because you don't have clean water? Then this subjects you to infections, dysentery, many other different things. And yet this is what Israel is doing because they literally have control of it. So the problem is that people go, well, Hamas, when in reality it's Israel that's actually doing the carnage. They're the ones that are holding back the humanitarian aid. They're the ones that are preventing people from actually being able to eat so that they can still survive. They're the ones that are holding back the water and the fuel and the electricity in order for people to be able to live. And so this is what's been going on this entire time, entirely, since the ceasefire started. Because to Israel, a ceasefire really just means a slowdown of the genocide. We're not going to genocide as much. To the Palestinian resistance, a ceasefire means a ceasefire. That means everything stops. So who's holding their end of the bargain more? Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. I know you're talking to me through the screen. So that's what's been happening. So let's get into what's been going on with Trump. So over the last couple of days, there has also been bombings against the Houthis in Yemen. Now, remember, the Houthis are a group that are against the genocide. And the Houthis are a Yemeni group that have been pushing against Israel for what it's been doing. And by doing so, they've been essentially taking over ships that have been trying to go in through the Red Sea to import goods into Israel. And they've been forcing them to stop and turn around. They've been blocking that. So they essentially enforced a blockade saying, if you don't stop this genocide of the Palestinian people, we will continue this blockade against these ships. And I talked about this before. So here's the geography. So for me, it's right here, but for you guys, it'll be right here. But here's Africa, right? And then right in that little corner, right near the Horn of Africa, right? Then you have the Red Sea. And that strait that it goes through, Yemen is also right there too. So they can block that area. And a lot of ships that are coming from the east, right? Well, they can just go through the Red Sea to get to Israel. But if that strait in the Red Sea is blocked, they have to go all the way around the Cape of South Africa and all the way back up and then into the Mediterranean before they can get to the Suez Canal. Meaning it adds about 2 weeks of time for the goods to reach Israel. So this is essentially part of the BDS. It's just the Houthis are doing it, they doing it. Boycott, divestment, sanction. And by the Houthis, blockade. And apparently Donald Trump doesn't like that. Why? Because Donald Trump is controlled by corporate interests. Israel is a corporate interest. So I'm going to share this article here. What's happening. And now Donald Trump is saying, well, if the Houthis attack us, we're going to blame Iran. Let's get into this. It says, Trump says Iran will suffer dire consequences for any more Houthi attacks. So this came out yesterday. So it says President Donald Trump on Monday said that further attacks or retaliation by the Houthis will be considered an attack by Iran and would face dire consequences. Trump threats come after the United States launched a new series of airstrikes against Yemeni group beginning Saturday. The Houthis on Sunday claimed to have thwarted a hostile attack the enemy was preparing to launch against our country. A U.S. official told ABC News that the Houthis fired 11 drones and 1 ballistic missile at the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier in the Red Sea on Saturday, none of which came close to hitting any U.S. vessels. In a post on Truth Social, Trump called the Houthis sinister mobs and thugs and said their attacks emanate from and are created by Iran. So, like I said, the Houthis are about that life. And the Houthis said, oh, is that U.S. Military vessels? All right, they ain't going nowhere near. They're like, stop. Ghetto son. They said no. And so this is what is going on. And now Trump is saying, if the Houthis do this, I'm blaming Iran. Let's continue. So it says Trump said Iran is dictating every move, moving them, giving them the weapons, supplying them with the money and highly sophisticated military equipment, and even so-called intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire. On Sunday, the Houthis claimed to have fired 18 ballistic missiles and a drone in 2 separate attacks over the previous 24 hours. All drones were down by fighters, 10 shot down by Air Force planes and 1 Navy plane, while the ballistic missile was not intercepted as it fell far short of the vessel. Trump describes the U.S. strikes as a decisive and powerful military action against the Iran-backed group. The Houthis have been targeting Western-linked shipping and launching munitions into Israel since the fall of 2022 in protests of Israel's war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. This is the narrative that's being painted right now, and I just want to let you guys know. This sentence here that says, in protest of Israel's war against Hamas and the Gaza Strip. Let's make one thing abundantly clear. This is not a war, it's a genocide. If you have a paramilitary group, right, which is a merry band of people who have some munitions that are fighting against a nuclear superpower, is that a war? Because a war denotes that there are 2 equal opposing sides. But it's not a war. And it's not that they're trying to defend Hamas. They're trying to prevent the destabilization and the destruction of the Palestinian people. And what Hamas and the PFLP and many other groups are doing, they're providing resistance to the settler colonial state of Israel, because Israel is trying to force them off their land so that they can take it over. That's what it's about. And if anybody wants to learn more, you can always do your research and go into it. You have many different resources, right? You have many people like Norm Finkelstein, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate. You have Miko Peled. You have, I'm trying to go through my brain here. You talk to people like, look at Norm Finkelstein, like read some of his books, but get into and talk to people who are Palestinian about what they've been going through. And by the way, this didn't start on October 7th. This started back in really 1948, when they decided that they were going to settle, really just take over and kick off the people off their land. So this goes way back because of greed and selfishness, and then real anti-Semitism from the British government. If you want to even talk about anti-Semitism, because the British government didn't want any Jewish people around them. They were like, go over there. Go over there to Palestine. Kick them off their land if you need to, but we don't want you here. That's basically what it was. And so with that being said, this whole thing of saying that it's a war really is a misdirect, right? And by the way, everybody points at Hamas and says, oh, it's Hamas, as if they're the only resistance fighters. No, there are other resistance fighters. Hamas may be one of the most famous, right? Which they are, yes, a Muslim group. But you also have the PFLP, which is specifically a Marxist-Leninist group that has no religious ties. And they're also resisting Israel. By the way, they're also doing things like mutual aid and direct action against the occupying force. What is that sound like? Who's that sound like? So they're resisting. And the United States and Israel are considering anybody who resists their stranglehold, their hegemony, as terrorists. Let me remind you, up until 2008, Nelson Mandela was declared a terrorist by the United States. Yeah. Right, Nelson Mandela, the same guy that got to visit the White House and sit with President Obama. Yeah, they considered him a terrorist. So with that being said, resisting occupation and apartheid and a genocide, does that really make you a bad person? If I see a poor old man getting beat up by a bunch of young men, if I decide to help that poor old man, am I the one in the wrong? If you see a child being beat up by an adult and you clock that adult to keep them from harming that child, are you in the wrong? Let me ask some of you who may be coming in to, either RBN or my channel for the first time and hearing this. Let me ask you this, though. Does an occupied people have the right to defend themselves? If your answer is yes, welcome. Because you believe in Palestinian liberation. You believe in liberation of all the peoples around the world that have been taken over forcibly by a lot of these Western governments. Anyway, let's continue. I just wanted to nip that in the bud because it gets on my nerves when they try to paint that narrative. But this is ABC News. They're going to be they're a corporate-owned news website. They're owned by Disney, essentially. So, of course, they have certain interests that are corporate. It says they have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against Americans and other ships, aircrafts, and drones. That's what Trump said on Truth Social. We will use overwhelming lethal force until we have achieved our objective. It says Lieutenant James Alexis Grinkewich, the head of the operations at the Joint Staff, told reporters on Monday, the Pentagon press briefing, that the U.S. struck 30 targets at multiple locations on Saturday. There were additional strikes conducted on Sunday. And the operation continued on Monday. It will continue in the coming days until we achieve the president's objectives. Well, it's the funny part right here. 30 targets at multiple locations Saturday and additional conducted on Sunday. You know what's funny about this? ABC News doesn't give the details of what those strikes were and what they consisted of. But we know. Why? Because the Yemenis talk. The Houthis talk. The people who are for Palestinian liberation, they talk. And they let us know exactly what's going on, right? They sing like canaries. And we are grateful that they do. Because I want to share with you what has been happening. So let me share this really quick. This was on March 16th, Saturday. Make sure this is big enough. And I want you to tell me if the United States is on the right side of history or not when I show you this. Shout out to Sarah for this. She says the U.S. dropped bombs on a cancer center and medical facilities in Yemen. A cancer center. Over 151 Yemeni civilians killed and injured in the last 2 days. They are deliberately targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure. This is a war crime and a crime against humanity. This is the cancer center that they targeted. I thought they were going after the Houthis. Not somebody who has leukemia. What does somebody with lung cancer have to do with the resistance that the Houthis are doing? What does somebody who has pancreatic cancer have to do with the blockade that the Houthis were doing in the Red Sea? What did they have to do with it? And yet this is what your government is doing. So anybody that's MAGA and says, oh, well, Trump is an anti-war president, here's your sign. Because as far as I know, Trump has never been anti-war. This is the same guy that had General Qasem Soleimani murdered, fired missiles into Iran, risking us war with Iran, and going after an Iranian general that was trying to keep peace in the region, that was literally fighting ISIS, that was literally fighting terrorists, actual terrorists. ones that were created by the CIA in the United States. Oh, but they didn't like that. They don't like that. They don't like that. But this is what they're doing. Hospitals being bombed with your public dollars. The money that should be going to you for housing, healthcare, education, food, the money that should be going to you is going to kill other people so that they can get their hands on the land. And then once they get their hands on the land, the resources, who gets control of it? The corporations that also exploit and violate us. And you mean to tell me that we have to choose between blue fascism and red fascism? Because make no mistake, even if we had a President Harris, this would still be going on, because she made it abundantly clear that she would be backing things like this too. So much for that black girl magic. Like Dr. Ruha Benjamin said, our blackness, and for people like Kamala Harris, her womanness is not in itself enough for us to put our trust in them. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. And so for anybody that's black, that's claiming that, oh my goodness, we should have elected Kamala Harris, you're in favor of electing an overseer. Which in my view is a coontastic view. So it's really semantics, Wesley. Essentially, it's the government that is over people like you and me. Well, I'm not sure what country you're at in, Wesley. But you're right. It is the ruling class government, basically, that they own. But they keep us subjected to it, right? But, you know, we're on the same page. So yeah, that's what's going on. That's what is going on as of recently. And one of the things that I want to share is that this is going to continue. This is not going to stop. Let me share this. White House spokeswoman and dollar store Pam Bondi, Caroline Levitt, confirms America was informed in advance and Trump personally gave Israel the green light to resume the genocide in Gaza. Let's just listen to what she says. And let's go.
Well, the Trump administration and the White House were consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza tonight. And as President Trump has made it clear, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose. And all of the terrorists in the Middle East, again, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iranian-backed terror proxies, and Iran themselves should take President Trump very seriously when he says he is not afraid to stand for law-abiding people. He is not afraid to stand up for the United States of America and our friend and our ally Israel. And we know that these successful defensive strikes that took place over the weekend against the Houthis in the Red Sea were indeed successful. We took out some of their leaders, and the Defense Department is set to continue with this campaign if the Houthis continue with their retaliatory measures. The president is going to stand for the navigation, freedom of navigation of our seas, which is a very basic principle approval that unfortunately the previous administration refused to stand for. And that's why we are in this mess in the Middle East in the first place. President Trump inherited a lot of problems, Sean, because of the incompetence and the weakness of the Biden-Harris administration. But he is focused on fixing them, and our allies and our adversaries better take him seriously.
So all hell will break loose. Okay. It's been loose for years. And this is all to support a government that continues to genocide people. You know, a question I have to anybody that's serving in the military that's under assignment to Yemen or Palestine or any place like that. And if you're, let's say, the pilot that has to bomb the hospital, let me ask you this one question. Is it not worth catching a court-martial for disobeying an order just so that you don't commit a war crime? Wouldn't you rather go to jail than to murder innocent lives? Wasn't the oath to protect our country against enemies, foreign and domestic? What enemies are in a cancer hospital? Don't worry, I'll wait. That's the question I have. If I was in the military, and let's say I was one of the airmen that had to drop bombs on a Yemeni hospital, or let's say you're on a gunship and you have to shoot at a Yemeni hospital, when are you going to actually disobey an unlawful order? And wouldn't that also mean a unlawful order that is against international law? See, this is why I like a lot of the Vietnam vets, because a lot of the Vietnam vets had spines. And they said, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. I hope to see more people who are in the military say, you know what, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. That's against international law. Fine, court-martial me. And then the rest of your fellow soldiers stand with you. The people who outrank you, stand with them. The people who are below you in rank, stand with them. Because there's going to come a time where we're going to have the Nuremberg trials 2.0. And we're not going to accept I was just following orders. What did Magneto say in the movie? I know it's fictional, but Magneto said, my life was at the mercy of men just following orders. Let's continue. I want to share this as well. Make sure I can get this up. Is this? Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay. I want to share what a doctor shows that's going on in Gaza right now. I only watched the first 4 seconds of it, and I immediately got emotional. But it is important to see. Let me share. It says, doctor describes situation in Gaza. This is from Breakthrough News. Shout out to you guys.
We've worked throughout the entire night. We haven't stopped. The bombing has been non-stop. We've run out of ketamine. We've run out of propofol. We've run out of all painkillers.
First of all, let's make it abundantly clear. So I'm not exactly sure what ketamine is used for in the medical field, but propofol is an anesthetic. It's anesthesia. And if you're running out of anesthesia, but you need to do an essential operation, then what does the patient have to go through? I hate to get gruesome, but I'm going to show that to you guys. I got a catheter in my chest for dialysis, and I had to get it done without anesthesia. All I got was local anesthetic and some sedation, and this thing hurt like hell. I was almost in tears. Just from this, just from a minor incision and a tube going into my artery. As a dialysis patient, this was just a few weeks ago that I had to go through this. I have scars from my surgery, by the way. So can you imagine what it's like for someone having to go through an amputation with no anesthesia at all? None. Is that the type of government that you want to back, where they're doing things like that? No painkillers? Do you know how painful some of these procedures are? And it's not just even the operation, it's the post-surgery as well. If you're running out of painkillers, local anesthetics, and anesthesia, imagine the suffering that people have just so that they can stay alive. This is why we talk about this, because we got to humanize our human family around the world who are suffering because of this exploitative system. Let's continue.
We can't sedate anyone. We can't give them any analgesia. When we intubate people, they wake up and they're choking because we have no sedation.
Oh my God.
There are 7 girls getting their legs amputated, no anesthesia. The bombing is still going on. The room is still shaking. I haven't slept. We went to bed at about 1 o'clock, and at 1:30 the bombing started. It's about 10 a.m. now. Just gone back to my room. I'm lightheaded. I'm dizzy. And I mean, it was just mostly women and children, burnt head to toe, limbs missing, heads missing. There's a video I put up on my story of me doing the chest drain. The gentleman that did the chest drain, and he died on the way to the CT scan. There's another video of 3 girls laying on a bed. That's his 3 girls who are now orphaned. Their mother didn't even make it into the hospital. She was killed along with their other sister. I don't know what to tell you. I was here in June, nothing to this intensity. This is unbelievable. And the bombing is still going on. The rooms are still shaking. The screams are everywhere. It's insane. I need to just take 15 minutes, or even an hour, just to rest, to go back in there and go back down again. I feel awful to leave, but I've been there all night and I haven't stopped, and my legs are shaking, and I feel dizzy and lightheaded. The smell of burnt flesh is still in my nose.
This is why there's students camping in colleges. This is why there are people marching in the streets. This is why people like Mahmoud Khalil spoke out. This is why you have channels like this, like these, that are constantly speaking out. And make no mistake, for anybody that says, well, that's way over there, that does have no effect on us over here. That's the testing ground for what they're going to do to us. The police literally train over there so that they can do the same things to us. If they're doing it to them, it's just a matter of time before they do it to you. That's a broken man. He's broken. He's a doctor and he's broken. Doing what he can to save lives to the point where he's up for hours and hours and his legs are shaking and he's getting dizzy because he needs to eat, he needs to rest, but he can't because he has lives to save because you've killed all the rest of the doctors. You killed the nurses. You killed the staff, the medical staff. You killed the ambulance drivers and the paramedics. And so some of these people, even if they survive, they can catch infections. They can bleed out if they're not taken care of. Or they can even just starve to death. And if it gets cold enough, they can freeze to death, catch hypothermia. And don't sit there and tell me, oh, well, it would have been better under Biden, because Biden was allowing the exact same things. And Harris would have allowed the same thing too, because they're all devoted to the power of the corporations. And why do I keep saying corporations, not Israel? Because Israel is a military outpost for the United States to use in order to keep its power and hegemony within that region. The United States does not care about Jewish people. Israel doesn't care about Jewish people. Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing settler colonialism. And if they cared about Jewish people, they wouldn't be putting them in harm's way by forcing them into conscription to commit a genocide against people. Israel is anti-Semitic. The United States is anti-Semitic. Don't you tell me that the United States cares about Jewish people when they were giving weapons to Nazis in Ukraine. Don't you tell me that the United States is not anti-Semitic when we did Operation Paperclip and we told a whole bunch of Nazi scientists and brought them into our country. And they're in all levels of our government. Don't tell me that the United States is anti-Semitic, is not anti-Semitic, when they literally allow neo-Nazis to march through our neighborhoods, and including Black neighborhoods. Don't come for me. Because the United States never really cared about Jewish people. Israel never really cared about Jewish people. It's about power and control of our region. I've said it before and I say it again. There are hundreds of millions of cubic tons of liquefied natural gas and oil underneath Gaza and off the coast of Gaza. And of course they want that. And of course they want to build the real estate over there so that Israelis can party and have a good old time and take over the land and homes that Palestinians had. And they don't want to expand it. And also they want to build the Ben Gurion Canal as well because they want to compete with the Suez Canal. It's all about money and resources. It's all it's about. So much so that the United States is even willing to jail and imprison people who have a permanent residence. And it's not just brown people. White people, white Europeans that are living here or visiting here are now being abducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. White people. And we say, if they do it to us, they're going to do it to you. Now they're doing it. American Medical Association, where the hell are you? American Pediatrics Association, where the hell are you? All of these medical scientists, doctors, administrators, the nurses, the specialists, where the hell are you speaking out? Where are you? Because if something like that happened here, you would want them out there, over there to speak out, wouldn't you? And yet you're not speaking out. We literally have to appeal to this government to allow some Palestinian kids to get life-saving surgeries just so that they can survive. Trust me, I helped welcome one back in December. And this is the same government that talks about terrorism. But when it comes to us black people, they don't give a shit. Because if the government actually cared about terrorism, they go after the homegrown terrorists here. But their anti-Semitism that is embedded within the United States is also embedded with anti-blackness and white supremacy. Let me show you all what this too. I've been meaning to share this. Unapologetically African says Lincoln Heights, Ohio formed armed community defense in wake of a Nazi rally. The town was one of the first self-governing black communities in the North, found in the 1920s during the Great Migration as refuge for black citizens escaping Jim Crow. Let's share this right here because I want you guys to see this. Where we literally have to arm ourselves and defend our communities because police and the U.S. government won't do a damn thing for us.
These aren't police officers or soldiers.
They're business owners, their fathers, their sons, daughters.
These are civilians, members of the Lincoln Heights Safety and Watch Program.
It's a duty. Okay, let's go.
The duty, protecting their neighborhood, the majority black village of Lincoln Heights, Ohio. After neo-Nazis held a rally here last month, carrying rifles, waving swastikas, and hurling racial slurs, just moments before children were let out of school.
So they can do this, but Mahmoud Khalil can't say free Palestine. They're trying to deport him, and yet these guys aren't thrown in jail. They're not in prison. You see the contradictions? So he uses his free speech. They're like, oh, deport him. They use their free speech, and they're allowed to intimidate a black neighborhood. There's congruency between Nazism and Zionism. Remember that. Let's finish this up.
At the time, law enforcement officials said the neo-Nazis did not break any laws, but an investigation by county prosecutors is ongoing. Weeks later, the KKK came with these flyers.
First African-American community above the Mason-Dixon line of staff.
Safety and Watch Group spokesperson Durrance Daniels says the police did not do enough, which was more chilling because the town was founded in the 1920s as a safe haven for black residents.
Lincoln Heights is our home. If somebody broke into your home, you call the police, and the police says, you know, if they do it again, we haven't broken any law, so we're just going to allow them to break into your home again. What would you do?
Are you worried at all that having a potentially armed response could just create more friction, create more danger?
Let me answer that question, because I really want to make this abundantly clear. Her asking that question. Do you ask that question of the United States? If somebody's coming to threaten your area and you show them that you're strapped, that's what we call a deterrent, because the police won't do a damn thing for us. It's actually in the Supreme Court. They actually ruled that the police do not have a constitutional duty to protect us. But that being said, then what does that leave us with? That means we have to protect ourselves, just like the Palestinians. True story. See, here's the thing. What we did back in the day with the Black Panther Party. Do you know what the actual name for the Black Panther Party was? It was the Black Panther Party for self-defense. What was the self-defense for? Need we remind you, it was against white supremacists and racist police that terrorized their neighborhoods. Oh, well, here we go again. But the United States ain't doing anything about that. And just like they're siding with the people who are doing the oppressing here, they're siding with Israel that's doing the oppressing, the Palestinians, the people in Lebanon, the Yemenis, and Iran. There is really no, you should not be confused and think, well, if you guys start picking up arms, then they're going to pick up arms. They already have arms, number one. Number two, we're showing them, okay, fuck around and find out. And this is one of the things that gets me, and I know this segment is going a little long, but I just got to say this. A lot of times, some black people say, well, I'm not my ancestors. Baby, a lot of your ancestors threw them hands, threw them elbows, threw some knees in order to resist being captured, taken on a ship, and brought over to this land. We are our ancestors, but we just have to be like our ancestors that fought back. You have to awaken that inner Nat Turner in you. And white people, that inner John Brown has to come out. Because I have no tolerance, none, for white supremacist group to terrorize us or a Zionist group to terrorize other people around the world, especially Palestinians. I have no tolerance for that. And that's what the United States backs both of. Let's continue.
Answer that by saying, I've never felt safer as a Black man in my community than I have right now.
The mayor of Evendale, which oversees the police force that responded that day, said in a statement to NBC News, "Our emphasis on de-escalation and public safety resulted in the incident's resolution without injuries to any of the persons involved." But residents here say they can't afford to wait. Every day, the Safety and Watch group escorts children to school and patrols the streets.
Why do you all wear masks?
Those Nazis, we have reports of them finding our backgrounds. So we're not hiding ourselves from the residents, but we're protecting our family from what we're doing out here.
While many
Palestinian resistance has to cover their face so that they won't go after their families or what's left of their families. Because it's not just the people who are white supremacists. These aren't just some, and I don't mean to, I'm talking about the racist ones. They're not just some Jim Bob that drives a truck and lives in a double wide. No. Some of these people, particularly a lot of these men, are judges, police officers, prosecutors, business owners, on top of other different sectors of our society. Some of them have a New York accent. Some of them may have an accent that from Massachusetts. Some of them may have a Chicago accent. Some of them are from California. It don't matter. They're not always from the South. And we're talking about here in Ohio. So let's get real. These are people who have real institutional power that are also in these groups as well.
Many locals do support the security group. Some, like business owner Eric Ruffin, say they wish the group wasn't needed.
We don't want to become what we hate. We don't want to become a group of people that walk around feeling like we have a reason in America to have to protect ourselves.
And this.
What we do, and we've had to have that. We've had that reason. We had that reason for 249 years, bro. What are you talking about? All the slave revolts that have happened, we have had a reason. The Native Americans had a reason for 500 years to protect themselves. We have had a reason for 400 years to protect ourselves. Many groups within South America had many reasons to protect themselves. The Palestinian people have reasons to protect themselves. Do I wish we didn't have to? Absolutely. Absolutely. But oppressors speak a certain language. And unfortunately, some groups will have to defend against that language that oppressors speak. Let's finish this up.
Community
Stand up.
Stand up.
is
You're
not
not alone.
backing
Sending
down.
their message.
Morgan Radford, NBC News, Lincoln Heights, Ohio.
So when it comes to what Donald Trump is doing, you don't think Donald Trump's not going to want to crack down on groups, black groups like this that are patrolling their community, to making sure that the community members are safe? Black Americans? Oh, you don't think he's not going to crack down on them too? Just like he's cracking down on the PFLP and Hamas and Hezbollah? Oh, baby. COINTELPRO is going to be on crack soon. It's coming back with a vengeance. This is why I encourage you to learn how to defend yourself, especially those of you who are marginalized. And I want to say a special thing to my LGBTQ brethren out there. Baby, listen to me. Learn to defend yourself. And safely utilize the Second Amendment. To my Black American brothers and sisters and they, thems, learn to defend yourself in many different forms. Look, I got to do it too. Learn the laws, learn your rights within this country. To my disabled people, same thing goes out to you and whatever you can do. I do not trust neither party nor this government as far as I can throw it. Just be safe. And this is why you build community, because there's strength in numbers. If you're really going to resist, you got to resist. Please go ahead and give a like to the stream. I know that was heavy, but I wanted to get through it and what's going on over there and how it bleeds into over here. So thank you very much to everybody. So let's go into the chats. Let me check on the Rumble side. We're going to the Rumble side. Let's go into here on the tube. Colin says Palestine has already won, but Israel and the U.S. will make them pay, and we need to make Israel and the U.S. pay. Radical Education says, the way my chest feels, all I can think about is how, whatever much I'm moved by this, I know that I am unable to comprehend the pain and suffering, and I still want to cry and scream. I was talking to another content creator. I was just checking on them, see how they're doing. And I told them that we have to channel that anger into actual organizing and movement. Channel the anger. Anger is a very useful tool because anger is an emotion that you feel when something is out of balance. And it's the motivation to put things back into balance, back into harmony. So don't be overcome or disillusioned by your anger, but focus it and use it as energy in order to be able to do what you can for your fellow neighbors and your families. Bad Wolf and forced disappearances. Yeah, they're disappearing literally people for traveling outside the country and coming in. Savage just went over this. And it's no different than what they did right after the BLM marches, especially with ones like Mike Brown and Ferguson. Oh, there's a lot of Black people, Black Americans, that were disappeared for demanding that we defund the police or we abolish the police as we know it and create something new as far as public safety. Oh, some of those people were disappeared and then they wound up dead. Bam says shameful. He said mostly women and children. That's mostly who's dying right now in places like Gaza. and in Yemen. Corbett Ravenscroft says, just got word that Eugene Police Department in Eugene, Oregon, is ripping homeless people from their tents again today. One woman was not even fully dressed. That's our government, folks. Instead of just giving people housing, which we can afford to do, we'd rather put these people in jail. And it's actually more expensive to keep them in jail. It's just sad. This is also true, Edward Coates. Israel killed their own hostages using the Hannibal Directive. They care about taking over the Middle East. Anybody who's new that's watching, look up the Hannibal Directive. Look at exactly what it is. And then you'll be sick to your stomach. And you'll realize these Western governments, they ain't shit. Let me continue. Radical Education says, damn, I guess we shouldn't have fought the Nazis. No, we should have fought the Nazis, but we should have did what the Soviet Union did. That's what we should have done. But instead, we decided, the United States kind of likes what they did. Is just they don't want the rest of the world to know that we're actually that evil. Katie Lewis says black folks should have took arms like this. We were hamstrung. We were defanged by the institutions that basically said that, oh, we need to be like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and practice nonviolence as a principle. Whereas somebody like Kwame Ture said, I believe in nonviolence as a tactic, but not a principle. Because if I keep letting you beat me and beat me and beat me and beat me to the point where I'm dead, well, what type of liberation's in that? And that means that you think that you're going to have, you think that they have a conscience. And then if they see some of you beaten and bruised and broken and bleeding and dead, then they'll suddenly come to go, oh my God, what am I doing? This is wrong. You're speaking about a people who have, or not people, you're speaking about a system that has no conscience. So therefore, you're going to have to defend yourself. Nonviolence is a tactic? Sure. Do whatever you can to avoid anything. And don't go looking for fights. But be ready to defend yourself. Roger says, James, check your direct messages. I don't know what's up with Rockfin, but while looking for a picture of the book, that should be your next reading. I actually was able to find a PDF. Thank you very much, Roger. I'll take a look into that. Appreciate it. Oh, it says I already downloaded the PDF from my Dropbox. send you a link first. The first link is the book, and the second shows a couple of quick setups. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Hopefully I'll be able to get the wherever the book that you recommend. I can actually get it, the hard copy, because I would like to read the hard copy and just have it for myself. Katie Lewis says COINTELPRO's top 5 groups under surveillance when it was established were all leftist liberation groups. The only terrorist group was the KKK. Guess which is the only group that exists today? By the way, if you guys aren't subscribed to Katie Lewis's Substack, he makes great articles, and he also features other authors as well. He is on Substack. Let's see. That's not what I want. No. Wait, is it? Where is it? Maybe I should just go straight to Substack. I don't know. I'm on my I see. Here we go. Sorry, I got a little lost. So if you guys have not, one thing I recommend is Katie Lewis's Substack. It's just the Chronicles for Black Political Power. One of the latest articles was a brief history of U.S. propaganda, the global weapon, and domestic pacifier. So here you guys go. Sure. So if you guys would like to, great articles there, go ahead and give it a read. A lot of historical context and well-resourced articles. So you guys have that there. Shout out to you, Katie. And see, Black Ronin says, unbelievable that we're considered anti-Semites and terrorists by the government for caring about this. It's also true as well. George says, when I see that channels are not doing any collective day against suppression, now I switch to suggest channels by myself. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to move on because we got to get going. But thank you very much to everybody. So one of the things that I'm going to do first before we continue to move on is I just want to give a Patreon shout out, and then we'll move on to our next couple of segments. So with that being said, here are the tiers so that you guys can know what's what. All right, so shout out to patrons on Patreon. We have Mega JB Faunters, Super Duper JB Faunters, Super JB Faunters. We have JB Faunters. We have Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And I just want to introduce new member. Thank you very much to Lebac. Thank you so very much for becoming a new member, and appreciate it very much for joining and contributing to the channel. So we deeply appreciate it here. Thank you so very much. And by the way, my channel is demonetized, so if you'd like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to move on into the next story. Let's talk about Elon Musk and DOGE. So DOGE defense hypocrisy. Really, this is going to be a reaction to a video from More Perfect Union that I want to talk about, because the thing is like we keep talking about DOGE wanting to cut Social Security, wanting to cut government jobs, wanting to cut funding to public institutions, public school, universities, all these other things. But they seem to be circling around the Department of Defense. So how can I put this? I usually don't hate on nobody, right? I don't play a hate, I congratulate. But if I can say my disdain for anybody is Elon Musk. I do not like people who obtain wealth and status off the backs of other people. I do not like that. You can throw any billionaire at me and I'll be like, I don't like them. Now, some of their content, maybe like Rihanna. I like a little Rihanna music. I like a little Beyonce's music. I could even jam to a little bit of Taylor Swift. But do I like what they're doing when it comes to the exploitation of other people? Hell no. It's just like, for instance, when it comes to things like Disney, I actually like some of the content and I like going to the parks. But Disney as a corporation, I can't stand it. So this is why people like me think that Disney actually should be worker-owned and collectively operated. But anyways, that's just an example. But Elon Musk has been circling around and dancing around the issue of the biggest piece of the pie that actually takes up a lot of our spending. He says he's for government efficiency, but the one part where it just takes up most of our spending, he doesn't actually go after. Which means there's hypocrisy there. He's inconsistent. So I want to get into this as well, because I think this is an important to get into. And this is a video out of More Perfect Union that I would like to get into, because I think it's worth taking a look at. So let's go. Come with me. And it says, new, we found the waste Elon won't cut. Defense contractors. The Department of Defense funnels $450 billion of taxpayer dollars a year to private military contractors. But Elon Musk is too focused on cutting DEI initiatives, which is 0.01% of the defense budget, to tackle the real waste and fraud. Wow. Let's get into it, folks.
There is so much fraud, waste, and abuse. It's everywhere.
No agency in the federal government wastes money like the Department of Defense.
The DOD has never successfully passed an audit.
Come on, never?
Never.
There we go.
The stuff that they lose in the couch cushions is like $20-30 billion a year. They just don't know where it went. It's gone.
In my world, if I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that's waste.
How is that waste?
President Trump, along with Elon Musk and his team at DOGE, have their sights set on reining in waste at the Pentagon.
Check the military. We're going to find hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
But so far, this is what DOGE has to show for its efforts.
We believe that these initial findings will probably save $80 million in wasteful spending.
A grand total of less than 0.01% of the total defense budget. So what exactly is the Pentagon doing with $900 billion? We spoke to people who audited the Defense Department.
We have real estate that they can't account for. Real estate. I mean, it's a piece of land
an insider at a major defense contractor.
All of my effort is really just flowing taxpayer monies up into these billionaires in charge of the whole thing.
And military spending experts to find out where the real waste and abuse is in our defense budget. What they reveal is that the biggest source of waste is hiding in plain sight, and it could get even worse.
We want the biggest, most badass military on the planet.
Hold up, wait a minute. Let me just say this. These people are so stupid. We want the biggest, most badass military on the planet. Not, we want the most healthiest population on the planet. Or we want the biggest, most badass public transportation sector on the planet. We want the biggest, most educated population on the planet. It's just like, we need guns, more guns. Like he's Neo. Give us guns, lots of guns, right? And my thing is like, this is the equivalent of you having a half-eaten bagel, some condiments, and maybe a half or a quarter gallon of milk that's about to go bad in your fridge. But you think, oh, we need more guns for the house. We need more ammo. And you're sitting on a pile of them. But then you're like, man, I'm hungry. Lord, I don't know if I'll be able to get through this entire video, but there's a lot to get through.
Almost every audit I did was very obviously a wasteful project in one way or another.
Paul Kennedy worked as an auditor for the Department of Defense Inspector General's Office, an agency tasked with preventing waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement. One of the programs he audited was the F-35, the most expensive weapon system in history, with a total lifetime cost of over $2 trillion.
We were trying to see if they were managing this spare parts program, the best they can, and saving money whenever they can.
But what they found was often the opposite.
This is a report on the F-35 repair parts process.
Paul's report revealed that $34.5 million worth of spare parts were thrown out without approval.
We didn't watch it get destroyed. We didn't know that it was actually destroyed. We didn't even know that was bad. We just simply know that there's a part here that you say was beyond economical repair, and you got rid of it. That would be like borrowing my car and selling the radio out of it because it didn't work anymore. No, you need my permission to do that.
Between 2018 and 2023, over 1 million spare parts for the F-35 worth over $85 million were lost, damaged, or destroyed, according to a GAO report. So how exactly does the government get away with so much waste? Well, it's not the government doing it. The F-35 is made by Lockheed Martin, a multi-billion-dollar company and the US's biggest defense contractor.
Going back to the Revolutionary War, essentially, there have always been military contractors. One of the things that happens with defense contracting more than any other contracting with the federal government is something called a cost type contract. The contractor is reimbursed for any what they call reasonable cost plus some kind of profit.
So if the government wants to build a new military aircraft like the F-35, it will pay a private company to design and manufacture it, and all the costs that go along with the project.
They then have no incentive to reduce costs because they know they're going to be reimbursed. And then on top of that, there's a profit built in that the government will pay.
Since 2001, government spending on private military contractors has tripled, despite evidence that contractors aren't always using taxpayer dollars wisely. To find out exactly what companies are doing with this money, we talked to someone on the inside.
And I work at a major U.S. defense contractor. These defense contractors, they're there to make a profit, bottom line.
The defense industry is controlled by 5 main companies, siphoning billions of dollars from the government every year. These companies regularly outperform the S&P 500 and have profit margins between 9 and 20%.
Now that doesn't seem like a lot when you're just looking at it percentage-wise, but when you're talking about billions of dollars, that is a ton of money.
And for big projects, the government isn't paying these margins for just one company.
Prime contractors, they want their 9 to 20% of the contract, and underneath them, the sub wants 9 to 20%, and then it goes on and down below. And so you have this compounding effect. Some contractors literally are just integrators of subcontractors. A lot of times they don't do fucking shit. They just put the thing together when they're done. Say, here you go, now give me my 20%.
Jeff estimates that when you add it all up, roughly 30% of the total cost of the project is just profit for contractors and subcontractors.
Essentially, they are milking us all dry. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, all these different military contractors are milking us dry because they can. See what happens when you have the profit motive? When the profit motive exists, then they're more focused on creating more so that you will spend more. The goal isn't to actually protect the homeland and make a little profit from it. The goal is to make profit and to keep the homeland at risk, or to export war, essentially, so that we can continue to rack up the dollars. And these dollars don't filter down to the rest of us. It stays at the top. So therefore, what's going on in Palestine, in Ukraine, in Yemen, and possibly going to be happening in Iran, this is a cash cow for these companies. Donald Trump, being the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, is really just a coordinator to give the military contractors more money. He's not actually trying to protect the homeland. He's just trying to protect the shareholders' profits by keeping them in the black. Same thing with Joe Biden. Same thing with Barack Obama. Same thing with George W. Bush. Same thing with Bill Clinton, and on and on and on. It was to keep the military contractors' money flowing. The authorization of use of military force, the AMUF, or the AUMF, that's to keep more profits every single quarter to go to the profits of the military contractors. They're not there to serve us. They're there to serve them. Oh, man, this is great. Let's continue.
That would mean that just last year, almost $134 billion of government funding was just profit for private companies. So how is it that these companies can get away with spending so much of the government's money?
These contractors have a lot of power over the contracts because they're the only ones that can do it.
General Dynamics are the only company that produces the Abrams tank. When the U.S. military wants to buy more Abrams tanks, they don't have to compete that contract. They always give it to General Dynamics.
That's called a monopoly. That's a monopoly. So if we need Abrams tanks, right, we only can go to General Dynamics for it. General Dynamics cannot compete with any other company that also builds Abrams tanks. And even if a company tried, General Dynamics would just either force the government so that they can't come and grow, or, excuse me, they would buy them out and absorb their company, and then they'd be the sole company once again. Capitalism breeds innovation. my ass. Let's
They are
continue.
the only one. General Dynamics would have no incentive to reduce or contain the cost of the Abrams tank if there's no one competing for that contract.
But contractors didn't always have so much power over the government. Back in the 80s, there were dozens of companies that would compete for defense projects. But in the 90s, the Clinton administration cut defense spending and facilitated a wave of mergers until there were just 5 major players. They argued this would make the industry more efficient, and that outsourcing more work to contractors would save the government money.
We got some good people coming out, some really good people. I hope.
But instead, the top 5 contractors took advantage of their monopoly power.
The big shift that has happened is that contractors are now providing more and more services, things that the military did used to do for itself.
Companies realized that offering the government services, things like designing software or maintaining equipment, could mean decades of competition-free work at relatively high profit margins. And that's exactly what we've seen happen.
In setting up the contract for producing the F-35, they couple with that a lifetime service agreement. So Lockheed Martin is the only company for the remainder of the lifespan of that piece of equipment that can service that equipment. The military itself can't even service parts of that equipment because it's proprietary.
So you go to Toyota and you buy a Corolla. And you now own that Corolla. But something on it needs to be serviced. And you know a little bit of automotive tech. And you decide to either change the brake pads, do an oil change, maybe adjust timing belts. But now, because of that agreement, you're not allowed to even touch it. You literally have to take it back to Toyota to get it serviced. And then they will charge you more and more and more for something that you could have did yourself for cheaper. This is basically the right to repair law on steroids, because they took away the right to repair for a lot of the products that we use today. Let me ask you, when was the last time you took the battery out the back of your phone? When was the last time you were able to crack your phone open to look at the contents? Oh, but now you have to buy a whole brand new one. So let's say you have an F-35 and something happened with the fuselage, right? The US government can't take their soldiers and service members and engineers and go, hey, repair the fuselage in that F-35. A lot of times, either you have to take that F-35 back to Lockheed Martin and say, hey, you guys need to fix this, and then Lockheed Martin will charge you an obscene amount of price just to fix something that's simple that would cost us a whole lot less. Or they will go, you guys just need to buy a whole brand new F-35. Instead of us repairing it for cheaper. Because we literally have the manpower within our government to be able to repair these things. But they'd rather not do that.
So the military becomes vulnerable and dependent on this firm, and this firm has a complete monopoly.
In 1990, the DoD paid out $29 billion in service contracts, $67 billion when you adjust for inflation. By 2023, that number had grown to $166 billion.
Economically, the DoD has become dependent on this model. So the more that they've used contracts and contractors, the less expertise they have of their own and the less capability they have of their own to produce those same products or provide those same services.
Research going back over a decade suggests that you could save tens of billions of dollars a year by actually bringing core government functions, administrative functions back inside rather than outsourcing them to service contractors.
It seems like this would be a simple fix, but there's a problem.
The arms industry has been incredibly successful at politically engineering weapon programs such that very few lawmakers in Congress are prepared to challenge them.
The defense industry strategically spreads out manufacturing across the country, making Congress members defend manufacturing things we might not even need because it keeps jobs in their district. The Big Five also make political donations to the congressional representatives who decide how much the DoD gets to spend every year.
Oh, here we go. And here's the politics aspect of it. These military contractors, Bernie Sanders is also one of them, by the way, just to let you guys know, because he's like, we need to keep jobs. Anyway, they will make it so that if you don't go along with them, they will make sure that you lose your seat. This is what Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us in his final address to the nation about the military-industrial complex becoming too powerful. And as you can see here, unfortunately, their power is so great that they really can call the shots within our government when it should be the other way around.
All of this puts pressure on Congress to raise the defense budget.
This is an outstanding piece of legislation, and I strongly urge everybody to support it.
Even if it means continuing expensive projects, and even when the Department of Defense fails to pass an audit.
I'm proud to say the Republicans secured a 6% funding increase over last year's funding level.
If you go back to the very beginning, the DoD was stood up to defend this country. We are not interested necessarily in how well we account for our property as long as we win whatever that conflict might be. The American people are getting a little bit less and less supportive of that, especially when you see how quickly we can waste so much money.
Trump, along with Elon Musk, has made cutting government spending a hallmark of his second presidency.
I think he's going to find $1 trillion.
Yeah. We welcome DOGE at DOD. We will partner with them, and it's long overdue. The Defense Department's got a huge budget, but it needs to be responsible.
But so far, DOGE has focused on cutting federal employees and DEI programs.
Look at some of the initial things that we found in the Air Force. $1.9 million for holistic DEI transformation and training.
And they haven't touched anything related to the billions in spending on defense contractors.
So when you see Elon Musk or DOGE going after the federal workforce, that is a fraction of the federal budget. And in many cases, not all cases, those federal employees carry out services much cheaper than private contractors do.
The Pentagon plans to cut up to 70,000 civilian employees. Senator Roger Wicker, the head of the Armed Services Committee, is advocating to reduce regulations on weapons contractors.
These rules and regulations and protections are there for a reason. And these government organizations aren't there to try and fuck people. They aren't there to make these rules just because it makes it harder. There's a reason that it's there.
The problem with Wicker is that he identifies issues correctly, but he comes to all the wrong conclusions because he has stakes in the game.
Wicker notably was the largest recipient of defense industry campaign contributions of any Senate candidate.
Oh, yes. It's the money game. Hang on. Let me see something. I think I remember this. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to read this really quick, just to show you guys how deep the rock goes. So in the prior administration, we had Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. The Secretary of Defense, who was a 4-star general, literally had defense contract ties. So it was financially advantageous for him for us to continue in these wars as well. This came out in 2021. It says, in advance of his January 19th nomination hearing, retired Army General Lloyd Austin, whom President-elect Biden has picked to lead the Defense Department, has disclosed the extent of his financial relationships with defense contractors Raytheon Technology and Bose Allen Hamilton, as well as other companies he's worked for since leaving the military. Austin is a member of Raytheon's board of directors. If confirmed as defense secretary, he expects a cash payout between $750,000 and $1.7 million when he divests his shares in the company and associated entities, according to the financial disclosure documents first reported by Bloomberg. So, with that being said, it goes all the way to the top. So it's not just senators, but it's literally people that work in the Department of Defense that are literally making money off of war. Every single bullet that's fired, every bomb that's dropped, every drone that flies, that's money that's pouring out from us. That's less money for you when it comes to food. That's less money for you when it comes to housing. That's less money for you when it comes to education. That's less money for you when it comes to all these different services that the government is supposed to provide for us. All because we got to keep the homeland safe. When in reality, do we really need 800 military bases around the world? I just wanted to share that too, because that's how deep the rot goes. Even our Secretary of Defense was deep within that rot. Let's finish.
If you give these companies free reign without having these people overseeing them, what's to stop them from doing something like planned obsolescence on things like weapon systems or body armor, that just disintegrates after X amount of uses? It would definitely increase their profits, because then they would have to keep going back and buying more. So if you open a little bit of door there, they will flood through and take as much as they can.
The sort of push to deregulate as means to increase efficiency is completely contrary to reality and history. And I just can't emphasize enough how bad of an idea it is to deregulate budgeting and acquisition. This will only improve contractors' ability to overcharge the military and the taxpayer.
Year after year, what has been found is something in the range of 30 to 40% of contract spending goes to waste, fraud, and abuse. So the first thing would be at least to reduce the services that are being provided by contractors, to have fewer opportunities for contract dollars to get misused, because fewer of those dollars will be going to contractors.
If Trump's goal is to cut $1 trillion from the federal budget, defense spending on contractors is one of the best places to look. But reining in waste here would take an investment in government oversight, not cuts. And more fundamentally, it would require a shift away from the corporate interests that have captured lawmakers and the Pentagon for decades.
We know what the holes in the law are, but we will never truly understand the scope of the issue unless Congress changes their tune on military contracting. That would require many of them to turn away from the very industries that supports them in more than one way.
The amount of money that the executives make and profit, all of that money is essentially taxpayer money that's been flowed out through the company and then just goes in right into their pockets. That amount of money could go into social safety nets or be reinvested back into the industry, or even just given back to the taxpayer as tax cuts to working people.
If you're solely concerned about military readiness, as our Secretary of Defense claims to be, then you would look at what more spending, how that's actually impacted the acquisition process and military service members. And the answer is acquisition outcomes have been getting worse and worse. All it does is enrich military contractors and their executives and shareholders.
So I want to share this right here. This is from 10 years ago. This is 10 years ago. Discretionary spending. Look at the military. 10 years ago, it was almost $600 billion. 54% of our discretionary budget was tied up in military. And those defense contractors get a huge chunk of that. And yet Elon Musk is so focused on DEI, but he's not focused on the billions of dollars that these military contractors are taking hand over fist. Is it really any wonder as to why DOGE exists? It was never about actually being efficient for government. It was about enriching the pockets of the very wealthy and well-connected. Now, some people will say, well, JB, well, what would you do? If it were up to me? All right, here's my radical take. Every single military contractor would be taken over by public entities. And of course, yeah, buy out like shareholders and all that. But they will no longer own Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin. Those would now be government-owned companies. Meaning the profit motive no longer exists. All of the research development would happen through public universities, and it would also happen through the military. All the billions of dollars that would go to shareholders, that would go to the executives, are now being reinvested back into those departments. Soldiers would be the ones who cook and make meals for other soldiers. Soldiers would be the ones that are actually repairing those vehicles and doing maintenance on those vehicles instead of tossing them out when one little timing belt goes off. And therefore, it will be saving billions of dollars while keeping our arsenal ready, just in case. And that would cut out billions of wasteful spending. And also, all of our munitions, all of our military vehicles will be created in-house by the government itself. It would not be in private hands at all. Because once you start to privatize things like military apparatuses, weapons, machines, then those companies are going to want you to buy more of them. And the only excuse they have for you to buy more is to create more conflicts so that you have an excuse. This is why the war in Ukraine has been going on for as long as it has. This is why the Iraq war started. This is why the war in Afghanistan. This is why there were bombings in Somalia. This is why we have bombings in Yemen now, because that's more money for the weapons contractors. You don't think that Lockheed Martin is not making money off of those, possibly some of those F-35s that are flying over Yemen, that are bombing the Houthis and other civilians? That hospital, that cancer center that was bombed, you don't think that Lockheed Martin just didn't make money? It didn't just make money off of that? See? Making money off of death and destruction. Our defense should not be in the hands of public companies at all. Because once you put the for-profit motive in there, that means that they're going to want to perpetuate war even more to make more money. This is why for-profit should not be in defense at all. I do not agree with having any for-profit company anywhere near our Defense Department, even to feed our soldiers. Hell no. No, you want to feed our soldiers? Have some of the soldiers become chefs. Have Michelin star chefs train our soldiers. I don't care. But have them do everything in-house and see how much money we save. Oh, it'll be billions upon billions upon billions. But Elon Musk isn't thinking about that because, well, he's buddies with the people who are head over all these defense contractors. He's looking out for his class. And Donald Trump is looking out for them too. So shout out to More Perfect Union for that video, because it shows the hypocrisy between someone like an Elon Musk and Doge, and how they look the other way. They nothing to see here, nothing to see here when it comes to military contractors. They don't care about efficiency. They just care about making the rich richer. Thank you so very much. Please like the stream. I appreciate all the support from you guys. Let's get into the chat. Let's go into the Rumble just to see if we have anything. We're good there. Okay. And let's go into the rest of the general chat. Oh, I need to change this. Hang on. All right. So, Wadi says the defense contractors are no better than the scammer padding the bill to rip off their client. Actually, they're worse since their products are so destructive. I agree. Oh, Jacqueline says, just think of the people that could be helped if they curb the greed of the defense contractors. Oh my gosh. They're cutting our SNAP benefits right now. I get SNAP benefits. They're cutting them right now. They're trying to attack Social Security. I'm in fear of that. I think Stabby's going to be talking about Social Security later this evening. So tune in to her channel this evening when she talks about Social Security and Doge. It's ridiculous. Just think. How much money does it cost to end homelessness in this country? How much? How much? Do any of you guys remember? I got you, Roger. But how much does it cost? Somebody in the chat just put it up. How much does it cost to end homelessness in the United States? Somebody, anybody, please. I want to post it because I want to back up Jacqueline's point. I know y'all know. Some of y'all going into Google. By Katie Lewis, $20 billion per the Housing and Urban Development. $20 billion. You don't think we can't save that much money in the DOD? Thank you very much. We literally could end homelessness by cutting out some of these military contractors. We could end homelessness by cutting out these military contractors. We can end homelessness by cutting out military contractors. And you mean to tell me that that's worth more than the lives of American people? By keeping some of this small little tiny group of people and shareholders flush with cash? It was never America first. It was corporations first. That's what it is. And that, to Jacqueline's point, absolutely. HUD is Housing and Urban Development. It's a department within the United States government. Defense is the biggest waste in our government. And Elon keeps looking past like, I don't see it. I just don't see it. We got to keep ourselves safe. We're starving. Oh, but we got to keep ourselves, America, safe. I don't have a home. Oh, we got to keep America safe. There are terrorists everywhere. Our environment is crap, and we're getting sick because of it. Oh, we gotta keep the guns. We gotta keep the ammo. We gotta keep the F-35s. We gotta keep the Abrams tanks. If a father of a household has starving children and malnourished children, but he keeps buying guns because he's afraid of some invisible threat outside of his home, isn't that a father? Wouldn't you deem that father to be negligent? Whew, boy. George says, thanks for the Substack link. I haven't been there over a year because I was mentally paralyzed over the mass murder in Gaza. Look, George, I'm going to say this with love. Take breaks. Don't overwhelm yourself. Stay informed, but don't overwhelm yourself. Just do what you can, okay? I mean that with love, okay? Just, it's tough on all of us. And just, center yourself so that you can keep going in the fight. Okay? Don't, because they want you to be demoralized. That's the point. They want to break your spirit. So, take your breaks when you need to, know your limitations. But then when you want to keep informed, independent media, those of us like Katie Lewis and his Substack channel, go to Electronic Intifada, go to Gray Zone News, go to Glenn Greenwald and check them out. Stay informed and keep informing your neighbors, okay? But just know your limitations and just keep going that way, okay? Love to you, okay? Colin says General Dynamics also owns GDIT, which manages every Medicaid record in New York and was paid $500 million to spread anti-jab info in the Philippines, likely killing thousands from the pandemic. These people. If hell exists, if a fiery burning hell exists, oh my God. Thank you very much for that, Colin. Sean Miller says, I work for a subcontractor. They would charge they would charge the U.S. government $250,000 for two handles to put an engine in helicopters. The handles were one-time use? What in the ever-living hell charge the U.S. government $250,000 for two handles to put an engine in helicopters? And the handles were only usable one time? Yo, I'm trying not to go off, I'm seriously trying not to go off right now. I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it copacetic with y'all right now. But the more I find out, the more pissed off I get, and I literally want to yell right now. I want to get loud, so loud right now. I really do. I'm so mad, not just for myself as a citizen, but on behalf of all of my fellow citizens. I am pissed off right now. Thank you very much for that information, Sean, because we need to hear things like that. Thank you. Ooh. Hamza says these jokers got mad at Ethiopia because they opened factories to supply their military weapons and drones, all homemade. Now the West supporting insurgents. I'm not surprised, man. I'm not surprised. Katie Lewis says DOD shoots itself in the foot with its obsession to dominate the world. Barely any of its bloated budget is allocated to actually maintain systems and facilitate their own installations. I'm not sure how much in relation to DOD is to the VA, the Veterans Administration, but the Veterans Administration, from what I heard from inside sources, is that the Veterans Administration has been on a hiring freeze for years. And by the way, the Veterans Administration is very, very slow, according to veterans. Couldn't some of that money go to the VA to help with the people that actually did the fighting, that have, PTSD, that have been maimed and bruised and broken from the scourge of war? Can't we improve that system? Oh, but it has to go to the military contractors. Some of these doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, people who work in the VA are stretched thin just to take care of our veterans, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Doctors. Shouldn't they be taken care of too? Shouldn't they have a better work-life balance? Shouldn't the medical personnel that are taking care of our service members be better taken care of? Joe, thank you. Just because it creates jobs doesn't make it a good thing. Creating toxic waste creates jobs. See? But at what cost? It's the same thing with the fossil fuel industry. Now, granted, I don't want the people in the fossil fuel industries, the people who work in coal power plants, the people who work in fracking, the people who work in the oil rigs, I don't want them to be without a job. But I don't want those industries to exist any longer, because that's what's damaging our planet. But I still want them to be employed and make good money and not just survive, but thrive. And so therefore, we switch the industry to something that's actually going to be helpful for everybody. Oh my gosh. You guys are... Roger, remove the profit incentive for manufacturing weapons and nationalize the entire industry. That's exactly what I said. Roger, are we psychically linked right now? Because I think we are. Because we both said the same thing. Thank you. He also continues, says the amount of money saved by DOGE is replenished by Congress anyway. Plus, the amount saved represents barely 1% of our federal budget. Willem says the guy who makes 4,000-pound electric cars claims efficiency. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Oh, man. I just actually got finished watching a video yesterday of this guy. He took a trip to Alaska. And this is to solidify your point, Willem. He took a trip to Alaska. And, excuse me, these people had a bunch of Chinese cars, Chinese-made cars that were there in Alaska for him to test drive. I cannot tell you how much better quality these cars from China were made in comparison to Tesla. Looking at Tesla now compared to these Chinese cars, it's like comparing one of those old flip Sony Ericsson phones to the brand new Androids that we got today. That's the comparison. It's like, wait a minute, that still has analog buttons and you have to press multiple times just to get to different letters, just to text. And it's in black and white. What? Meanwhile, you got these Chinese cars are basically like luxury cars. And they're literally half to a quarter of the price that we charge for American cars. You literally have cars that you would think are between $70,000 and $100,000, but you find out that the most expensive ones are only 52 grand. 52. You got cars that you would think that are $60,000, $70,000 that are only running for $27,000, $28,000. And they're all electric. And they go 400, 500 miles per charge. And they got refrigeration for your drinks. They got cup holders. They got karaoke machines in the car. And these cars are high quality. They're not some cheapo Temu BS. So Elon is making hand over fist on y'all too. Zoya, hey Zoya, says Hitler started with privatization. Fascism is state power coupled with corporate power. Imperialism turned inward. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Zoya. And yes, I will go to the DMs, Roger. Let me just do one more. Bender says, old Elon used this app strategically to control the peasant's mind. First, Elon had young libs glazing him. Now he has old boomers eating out of the palm of his hand. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you very much, Jasmine. I appreciate that. Let me go to the DM that Roger sent. Hang on. I wanted to react to that because I was just like, this is going to be a good one. Ooh, that's some good links right there. These are some articles. Okay, so those are articles right there. I'm going to read this, Roger. Let me share my screen. Because I don't have Rockfin right now. I don't know what's going on, so I'm trying to get in touch with Rockfin to see what's going on. But Roger says, if they won't defund it, then we will. Parents, don't let your kids grow up to be cannon fodder. When they start talking about serving your country, you tell them all those goodies you get, you stop getting once you're no longer active duty, and you have to fight and struggle to try and get them to cover. They do not finance the VA like they finance the military. They do not take care of you when you leave. When you have to start doing government job guarantee and infrastructure with public banks, we have to start doing government job guarantee and infrastructure with public banks financing. That's how you replace those weapons manufacturing jobs, because infrastructure can't be outsourced to another country. So this is the screenshot. It says DOGE touts billions in canceled government contracts. Where are its numbers coming from? DOGE claims 55 billion in savings, but its wall of receipts totals 8.6 billion, just 0.1% of last year's federal budget. Okay. Defense spending can and should be cut. Cato, that's the Cato Institute. It says the Libertarian Cato Institute says cut, cut, cut. Wow. Even Cato Institute saying it. That's interesting. All right. Thank you so very much for that, Roger. Okay. And let me see. Honest E says more like a dad spending all his money on better belts to spank his kids instead of feeding them. Yeah, definitely. Oh, Bad Wolf says the VA horrible for and has been unfounded with funding cuts every use. Yeah, so what they do is they do what's called the death of 1,000 cuts. And so that means that they cut the VA, little by little, so that it becomes underfunded, which means that it doesn't work and operate as well, which also means that it's slower and it starts to be more inefficient. So if a government program is underfunded, then therefore it starts to buckle, right? You kind of think of like the money as like the lubricant that keeps an engine going. If there's no lubricant, then what happens to an engine? It stops. So the problem is that they're undercutting it more and more and more. The primary reason is because the corporations want that money instead. They don't want it actually going to the VA, number one. Number two, this also gives them the incentive to privatize the VA so that these companies can actually take it over and make more profit off of our veterans. And that's one of the issues. This is exactly what they're trying to do with Social Security. This is what they're trying to do with Medicare. This is what they're trying to do with Medicaid. All these different programs they want to privatize because they want to milk more money out of us. That's what it's been about. And don't forget that they mentioned the planned obsolescence, and I actually did a video about that. Yeah, Tim Price said I saw that video. It was wild. Yeah. Okay, so don't sleep on team. They may have some good stuff. I've never ordered from them. I haven't. But, I'm thinking about getting some lights from them, some more lights, So we'll see. Anyway, all right. So let's go to the next subject here I want to get into. Oh boy, last one. Finally. We're going to get into, so first we started off with Trump, basically in his merry band of genocidal maniacs, greenlighting genocide. Then we talked about Elon Musk and his Doge hypocrisy. We talked about that. Now we're going to get into our final segment, Florida insurance scam. Are you a homeowner in Florida? Do you feel like your insurance rates are too high? Well, don't feel alone because you got hundreds of thousands of Floridians that are with you. But guess what? The insurance companies are saying, well, things are getting too bad here and, we're not making enough money, blah, blah, blah. And yet, on top of that, they're making record profits. It doesn't make any sense. Well, let's get into this because I think it's really important for us to do that. So I want to get into this article out of Orlando Weekly. It says Florida lawmakers question claims that insurance companies are hiding profits while claiming losses. Our purpose today is to find out if insurance companies have been allegedly ripping us off, ripping the citizens of Florida off, why rates are so high. Oh my goodness. It says Florida House members Friday began digging into questions about property insurance companies sending money to affiliated firms and shareholders while arguing the industry was losing money. During the 3-hour hearing, the House Insurance and Banking Committee grilled State Insurance Commissioner Michael Yaworski and former Commissioner David Altemeyer about a 2022 report that in part detailed money going to affiliated firms. The hearing came after a Tampa Bay Times Miami Herald story last month about the report, which had not been approved until lawmakers or released publicly. Lawmakers said that they should have received the report earlier, particularly as the legislature in the 2022 special session passed major changes to bolster insurers. Yaworski and Altemeyer said the report was a draft and that final version was not completed. Our purpose today is to find out if insurance companies have been allegedly ripping us off, ripping off the citizens of Florida off, why rates are so high. We want to find that out. That was from Representative Mike Caruso from Delray Beach. And this report is the state's attempt at determining the answer to that. Yet it is still in draft form. It's only 7 pages long. It deals with data from 2017 to 2019. Today is 2025, and as legislator, that's outrageous. And we're getting something that's so antiquated and so full of flaws. Yaworski, who became commissioner in 2023, said he became aware of the report late in 2024, and he said that regulators would produce an updated report if the legislator wants it. So let's continue on here. It says a 2022 report conducted by the State Office of Insurance Regulation by Risk and Regulatory Consulting, LLC, involved 53 insurers and looked at issues such as income payments to affiliates and shareholder dividends. When excluding companies described as outliers, the report said that companies reported an aggregate net loss of $432 million from 2017 to 2019. But it said net income of affiliate firms was $1.8 billion. The discussion on Friday primarily centered on what was known as managing general agents, which are firms affiliated with insurance companies. Insurers pay managing general agents, or MGAs, to perform many day-to-day tasks, such as issuing policies and managing claims. So Hillary Castle, representative from Dania Beach, an attorney who represents consumers in lawsuits and insurers, questioned how regulators could have received such a report and not pursue issues related to affiliates. Well, I mean, let's be real. Like, how many of these insurance companies have politicians in their pockets? Like, this is Florida, baby. Like, there's corruption all up and through this state. So, of course, the insurance companies are going to have politicians in their pockets, including local and state. Like, all right. All right, let's continue. It says the problem with managing general agents and your affiliates has existed in the state for a very long time. Yaworski said that if you're commissioner of insurance, you don't have a concern about pervasive incentives that can exist to holding company arrangements, MGAs, or in affiliate transactions, that you shouldn't have a job, and consistent. And it's constantly on my mind, along with about a billion other things. Jaworski said that they had strengthened rules over the years related to monitoring, but also said companies' use of MGAs has helped draw investors to the risky insurance market, which is described as a countervailing balance. So when did this come? So the report came during a turbulent time in Florida's insurance market, with companies dropping homeowners, raising rates, and in some cases going insolvent because of financial issues. Lawmakers during the 2022 special session passed a major overhaul that included helping shield insurers from costly lawsuits and issue the industry blame for losses. So insurers are getting helped, but what about the people who are the customers? That's my question. People who are losing their insurance, people who are paying more for their insurance. So this is what they said in the podcast. And now we believe their potential that those cries were not real, that their profits were higher than expected, and potentially there was some sort of shell game being played. Now, sometimes when there's smoke, there's not fire, and hopefully that's what we find. We want to believe that everyone is an honest broker, but we do have a job to investigate that. I mean, you don't need anybody to tell you that these insurance companies are not honest brokers, because ultimately, if it's profit that's the primary motive, then of course they're going to claim, "Oh my God, we're suffering," when in reality they're flush with cash. And then they're dropping insurance for certain homeowners, or they're raising or jacking up the rates for some homeowners in Florida. And who has to bear the brunt of that? And a lot of these homeowners, where they get their rates jacked up. Well, guess what? What happens when they need to purchase food? What happens when they need to purchase, stuff for their vehicles, or would they have to pay for utilities? Because now they have to pay more for their rates. They have to pay more premiums. Then that means there's less money in their pockets. And it's all because these insurance companies, because their risk assessments are going, "Oh my God, there's too many hurricanes. There's too much flooding." When in reality, it's a systemic issue called climate change. And this is why I think private insurance is a scam. And when I say private insurance, I mean all insurance. I don't think we should have any private insurance in this country at all. I don't think we should have private auto insurance. I don't think we should have private homeowners insurance. I don't think we should have private renters insurance. I don't think we should have private health insurance. I don't think we should have private life insurance. No private insurance at all. Because once you put an incentive for profit, then that means somebody's going to get railed. Somebody's going to get screwed. Somebody's going to get taken for a ride. And right now, it's many Floridians that are getting taken for a ride. And then when insurance drops some of these people, and then you get a Hurricane Milton or a Hurricane Helene, and you have no insurance, and then your house gets destroyed, then what? Then what? You have nothing. It's over. It's gone. Let's say you pay 15, 20 years into the house and you only got another 15 to 10 years to pay on it before you're finished paying it off, and your house gets destroyed. All because, and then your insurance drops you right before. And they claim, "Oh, well, things are too hairy. We're in danger." And next thing you know, but you realize they made record profits. This is the insurance crisis that we're going through in Florida. So I shared some of this before, but I think it's worth going over again. It talks about the insurance crisis that we have in Florida. So let's just get a little bit of this. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I want to play it a little bit.
We got told we had to move in a hurry.
Times of distress, I have a tendency to be rather sarcastic because I always say I'd rather laugh than cry. And that was kind of one of those situations where you're literally throwing all your belongings to the street at one time. You're not being evicted and your wife's not kicking you out of the house.
Maurice Gutierrez lives in Naples, Florida. His house flooded in 2022 when Hurricane Ian made landfall on the southwest coast of Florida.
One of the strongest September hurricanes to strike the U.S. in decades.
Significant storm, again, a Category 4.
The street will never be the same. You know, trees gone, neighbors gone, homes are gone. And here I am today rebuilding because I won't move. I love this place.
A year later, Maurice got a notice from his insurance company. They were doubling his premium to $7,500 a year. The year after that, it was up to a staggering $9,000 a year.
Let's do the math. Let's do the math about that. Because I'm actually curious. So they raised it to $9,000 a year. That's $750 a month. Do you have $750 a month to pay for home insurance? Those of you who are homeowners? Isn't that like half of a mortgage for some people? That much? Look, the math is, the math is mathing. Take a look. $9,000 per year divided by 12 months is $750 a month. Do you have $750 a month to pay for homeowners insurance? Couple that with the price of eggs, well, see, this is why we need to start raising our own chickens. But it's ridiculous.
Now, on a fixed income retiree, that's not chump change.
So Maurice decided to drop his wind coverage. Now he's one of hundreds of thousands of Floridians that are going bare. That means they're living with little to no homeowners insurance in a state that is set to have a record hurricane season this year. And what's going on in Florida under Governor Ron DeSantis is a warning. This is what happens when a government capitulates entirely to the insurance lobby. We went to Florida to talk to other homeowners like Maurice. We found out that residents are being priced out of coastal communities, and sketchy insurance companies are thriving under DeSantis's policies.
It's essentially trickle-down economics, but for insurance companies.
And the housing insurance crisis isn't just a problem in Florida.
People around the Bay and across the state are now being told their homeowner insurance policies will not be renewed.
State Farm says they're discontinuing coverage for some customers. Several major carriers are pulling out of Iowa and other states.
Experts warn the collapse in the homeowners insurance industry could take down the entire housing market with it.
So let's talk about that, because the thing is not just going to be limited to Florida, because yes, we have hurricanes. We are 3 months away from hurricane season starting back up again. In fact, not even 3 months. We are 2.5 months away from hurricane season. Hurricane season starts in June, and it lasts until November. That's how long hurricane season is here in Florida, right? Where the tropics start, whipping up more hurricanes and tropical depressions and things like the tropical storms coming our way. But also you have many homes that are in Tornado Alley, where they get destroyed by tornadoes, right? In inclement weather. Or you have California. What do they have? A lot of wildfires, right? So with that being said, you have all these people, whether in the Midwest, whether in the West Coast, or whether in the Southeast, like here in Florida, And in some homes in places like Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi, that are constantly their rates are constantly going up because risk assessment will raise the prices because, well, it's more risk because the hurricanes are becoming more intense and they're becoming more frequent because of climate change. And so therefore it's making it more expensive for you. And who has to bear the brunt? You. Let's continue this a little bit more.
Those systems start to collapse, or should that business model collapse, it could take down the entire American economy with it. It could take down the global economy.
So basically, that's what we've been dealing with for the last couple of years, at least here in Florida, is that insurance rates are going up. And those of you who are renters, don't breathe a sigh of relief, because guess what? When the homeowner's insurance goes up on your landlord, guess what happens to your rent? Yup, because they're going to pass that on to you. Don't think because you're a renter that you're exempt from this. Don't think because you're a renter you're safe. Oh, no. Oh, no, bruh. You are not safe. And so if their insurance rates goes up, that means your rent goes up. Deposits go up. All this stuff. And some of us, we go to apartment communities where we're required to have renter's insurance. So who's to say that renter's insurance isn't drastically increasing their rates? Because some places you have to have renter's insurance. So this is what's going on in Florida. And yet these same insurance companies are reporting record profits. And this is going to spill over not just into Florida, but as climate change starts to intensify, it's going to spill over into Georgia. It's going to spill over into South Carolina. It's going to spill over. It's probably already happening in Louisiana. It's going, hey, it can happen in Tennessee. And what is climate change? Climate change is when the ocean waters are warming further because of the CO2, excess CO2 in the air because of pollution. And because of that, the seawater levels rise, and also the water gets warmer. And if the water gets warmer, that also means more drastic changes in our temperatures, meaning that we're going to have extremely bitter cold winters and extremely hot summers, as well as more intense hurricanes. And hurricanes can sometimes spawn tornadoes. And then on top of that, you also have areas within the middle of the country called Tornado Alley, where you may start having more stronger tornadoes. So instead of having the occasional EF1, EF2 within your little small town, you're going to start experiencing maybe more EF3s, 4s, and maybe even the occasional 5, the finger of God, that comes to your neighborhood. And if you don't have homeowner's insurance because they dropped you, well, then guess what? You don't have a home anymore. And all that money that you put into it, all that equity you put into it, gone. And then guess what? You have to move out of there. And guess who buys up the land? The corporations buy up the land. And then the corporations get to build the housing on that. And then they say, well, if you always want to move back in here, you can always rent. And then we become more of a nation of renters. See how the cycle goes? The cycle? It's pretty vicious. Pretty vicious. So when it comes to what we're going through, again, what would I do? Make it all public. Absolutely. Did you know that Florida actually has a government-owned homeowners insurance program? Yes. Red state, Florida, has a government-owned homeowners insurance program. Let me show you this. Let me see. All right. Here is Citizens Property Insurance Corporation. Here's the About section. It says who we are, a purpose-driven mission. Citizens Property Insurance Corporation plays a crucial role in Florida's property insurance marketplace by providing property insurance protection to people who are in good faith entitled to obtain a coverage through the private market but are unable to do so. As one of Florida's leading insurers in Florida homes and businesses, we strive to ensure that our customers receive service that is compared to private market standards. Citizens is a not-for-profit company whose employees are driven first and foremost by our mission of service to the people of Florida. In addition to providing a quality product and service, we strive to be good stewards to the premium funds entrusted to us and are committed to modeling the highest level of ethical behavior. Our purpose-driven mission informs every action decision we make and are proud of the valuable service we provide our customers in the Florida marketplace. Okay, about section on the side. It says Citizens was created by the Florida legislature in August of 2002 as a not-for-profit tax-exempt government entity to provide property insurance to eligible Florida property owners unable to find insurance coverage in the private market. Citizens is funded by policyholder premiums. However, Florida law also requires that Citizens levy assessments on most Florida policyholders if it experiences a deficit in the wake of a particularly devastating storm or series of storms. Citizens operate according to a statutory requirements established by the Florida legislature and is governed by a board of governors. The board administers a plan of operation approved by the Florida Financial Services Commission, an oversight panel made up of the governor, chief financial officer, attorney general, and commissioner of agriculture. So, if we could have this already, I say there's absolutely no reason we should have private insurance for homeowners in this state at all. Because if you have one that's government ran, that doesn't seek profit, then therefore, are your premiums going to be as high? Are your deductibles going to be as high? Private insurance is a scam. 100%. That's why I think we need a single payer homeowners insurance for the state of Florida. I think we need single payer auto insurance for the state of, not just for the state of Florida, but for the entire country. Single payer health insurance, at the very least, I think we should have a nationalized healthcare industry. But if you want to go single payer, that's a great first step. And also, if we do have a single payer auto insurance in this state, if you want to keep if you don't want that many people, if you think it may be too much money, all right, then publicize Brightline. Take it from being a private company to a public transportation, full public. Let's create high-speed rail in this state. High-speed rail that connects, Daytona, Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, Tallahassee. If you want to do that, all right, fine. Let's start making public transportation more available for people, and let's encourage it for all income groups to use. We literally have Walt Disney World that uses monorails all over between Epcot and Magic Kingdom, and you mean to tell me we can't imitate the same system? Oh, must be some child. Oh, baby, no. We could totally do that here in Florida. Imagine having high-speed rail that can give you from Orlando to Miami in 45 minutes. How many more people would be going to Miami from Orlando and vice versa? Or what if you live, someplace that's kind of out the way, but you want to get to Orlando? Well, all you got to do is drive to the train station where the high-speed rail is, jump on that, and boom, you're off to the races. But yes, as far as insurance goes, I don't believe in public insurance because somebody's getting shafted, and Floridians are getting shafted. And this is the problem with capitalism, because it concentrates all the money at the top and it holds it, and it sucks more money away from the people, from the workers, from the poor, and it keeps it there. It hoards it so that it does not, because they're thinking it trickles down, when in reality, nothing trickles down from a hoarder. Nothing. So then we're surviving on less and less and less. So I want you all to realize that this is why the system needs to be fundamentally changed. Now, I'm gonna channel my inner Roger Meadows here, right? Because if we were to have state and municipal public banks, we could use that infrastructure in order to grow the public money within the state of Florida and reinvest it into our infrastructure so that we can have better goods and services for the public. A state or municipal public bank. You guys know how banks make their money, right? Not just through fees and stuff, but the money that's in your account right now. The bank literally takes your money that's in your account. Let's say you have $100. They will take your $100, they will put it in the market. And they will put that in the market, and that $100 will grow. And let's say that $100 grows to $500, right? I'm being extreme, but it grows from $100 to $500. And now it's $500. But that $500 isn't yours. Only $100 of it is yours. The other $400, the bank keeps. But what if it was a publicly owned bank? And guess what? They would take all the money, the taxes and fees that are collected by the state. Let's just say state. They would take it. They would put it in the market. Let's say it's $100 million. And they put it in the market and it grows to $500 million. That $100 million then is held for the state to use, but then they also give the other $400 million to the state to reinvest into infrastructure. This could be housing. This could be infrastructure for roads, bridges, high-speed rail. This could be for keeping our waterways and the Everglades and all these other things clean and healthy so that we can continue to hunt and fish and do all these things that we like to do here in Florida. So we can keep going to the beach and having barbecues. So we can actually still have a sustainable Florida. This could help with different programs that essentially are for the public good. Wouldn't it be worth having something like that? But what would that spell for the corporations? Doom. But they're doomed anyway. Anyways, so with that being said, yeah, I mean, we should have this, publicized. Municipalize, stationalize, nationalize. Municipalize, stationalize, nationalize. Some of these essential industries that we need to survive. And if we had housing first, healthcare for all, see what I mean? It would be helpful for everybody. Because imagine how many people after Hurricane Milton became homeless. What if we had public housing for all? Wouldn't have to worry about that, would they? So let's continue to band together to organize, because a lot of our people here are suffering. Mutual aid that we do not only helps those who are homeless, or maybe people who are renters, but maybe somebody who owns a home, but they're also struggling too. We can help, them too. Like, you may have somebody that's like, yeah, I own this house, but I barely can afford my insurance. I can barely afford my mortgage because the rates are going up. All this other crazy stuff. And now the food prices and everything are going up. So this is why organizing our communities is so important. So yeah. That's the scam that's happening in Florida. And it's not a good one. So, did you like the stream? Go ahead and give the stream a like. Thank you very much. Let's go to the comments in the chat and we'll head on out. So, let me check the Rumble. Yeah, we finally. Oh yeah, we got a comment on Rumble. Let me enlarge and share my screen. Okay. So Troglodyte says $750 a month. Damn, right? That's $9,000 a year. Just in insurance premiums. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Just to have insurance on your home? Bro. That's crazy. These guys are out there, ever loving mine, I'm telling you. So Buddy. Nationwide is not on your side. They never were, baby. They never were. Thank you so much for that. I needed to laugh. Let's continue. Babel says, check and see if the lost part of the company is in Texas. There's this thing called the Texas 2 step. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Oh yes, Joe. Oh yes. I see you. Talk about a parasitic industry. Private insurance is really just a middleman that sucks up all the money when it comes to, because here's the thing. If everybody had enough money saved up in their accounts to cover for these emergencies, insurance wouldn't be necessary. But what is insurance? Insurance is basically an entity that takes everybody's money, pulls their resources together, and does risk assessments, right? And anybody that needs help, well, that money will get disseminated to them as an insurance claim and things like that. But if you deny, you get to keep that money. And so if you have all these people paying into insurance, but they keep denying, and they keep raising rates, that means there's more profit for the shareholders. And so they're that middleman. We don't need the middleman. Edward says, yeah, $750 a month is too much, not including mortgage, utilities, having kids, etc. I mean, you got to pay for gas. You got to pay for your car insurance. You got to pay for utilities. Some of y'all, you live where it's an HOA where you have to pay the HOA fees, right? Then on top of that, you know, some people, they don't have the physical ability to be able to mow their lawns, but you have to do in order, you know, to be in compliance with HOA or to be in compliance with the city. And what if something happens with your plumbing? What if something happens with your electrical systems? What if something happens to your foundation? We get sinkholes here in Florida. So many different things, man. Jacqueline says, if that tenant's home gets destroyed in a Hurricane Florida fire, what happens then? You're just done. You just got to move. And you got to come up with, you know, you got to come up with first month's rent plus deposit. And then you also have to pay for the application fees. Then they also have to do a credit check, and you have to come up with all that money yourself. You don't get anything for it. You know, I mean, if you have renter's insurance, then I mean, you can make a claim on the stuff that you lost. But of course, all the insurance companies are extremely tight-fisted with being able to help you out. Yes, I agree. Pitchforks are coming. Doge, whenever flying cuts in defense, Musk is a piece of shit. Yeah. Climate change is a lie that we have to stop repeating. Well, look, here's the thing. We're seeing the results of it right now, and we're starting to also have more climate refugees right now. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, it is real, and it has been happening. And even the fossil fuel companies knew about climate change back in the 50s and 60s, and they kept things going. So if they knew about it, but they kept quiet about it, and guess what? Yeah, they knew it was bad for us, but they didn't care. Even they know that that exists. So come on, Chris. Let's be real. Okay. And then let me go to Roger really quick. I gotta stop doing these 3-hour streams, but I'm just too long-winded. It says, but the new cars that are coming out that has automatic stop, where it's equipped with a radar and senses when you are about to hit something, it applies the brakes for you. Automatic stay in your lane with the steering wheel locks up when the radar senses you're about to go into an occupied lane, as well as all the other safety measures. Auto insurance at least will definitely come down. James, I seriously want you to consider that ballot measure of introducing new taxes to Florida. I think it would actually get ratified despite needing 66% approval for ratification, 6% higher than required threshold for other incentives. The reason why I have confidence in it is because it doesn't touch those making under $100,000 a year. Pass that around to see if this is something that someone in Florida is willing to run, to put it on Facebook or something, ask people, hey, I'm interested in doing this initiative. Would anybody be interested? All right, thank you very much for that. Says, as you go to collect signatures with your petitions, also bring voter registration applications that not only can they sign to qualify for the initiative to go into the ballot, but that they can be able to vote for, and it should have to appear on the ballot. That's exactly what AOC team did when Zeneb was in charge of her campaign. Thank you very much for this. If you're willing to play this, I would ask you to play it for your audience. Listen to what I say, and then the caller who called after me and Larry responding to us both. Let me see. I don't know how long is it, Roger, because due to the sake of time, I'm like at the end of my rope right now. I was not trying to go beyond 3 hours, but here I am. Hang on. Okay, let me share this. 4730. So it shouldn't be that long. Okay. Let me see. 4730. All right, we'll start at 4727. All right, let me share the screen and take a listen to this. Thank you guys for sticking with me this long too. I really appreciate it. But I like to get as much information to be as nuanced as possible. Thank you.
However, I need to be in that room with Trump and the governor, Larry, to be talking to get them to be like, hey, you need to be talking about thorium-based nuclear reactors for power. Later to this oil stuff.
Yes,
you know,
100%, my friend. That is, and again, if you saw what was it Kat who said it? I think she said that. Newsom even mentioned that nuclear power is an answer. I agree with you. I think, and if I remember right, the Chinese put one online last year. Is that right? Do you happen to know that?
Yeah, I believe it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yes, it did. And here's the thing. It can't be shareholder owned. It has to be stakeholder owned by the community as a cooperative.
Another call on hold.
Because they're going to love the idea, because this is the part I love about that. If you make it owned by the local people, they have literally a reason to make it successful, a reason for it to be there, a reason to sell more because they'll get a cut. And then the average person gets one, and you lower the NIMBY issues, right? The not in my backyard. You're like, no, please in my backyard. I get a check, I'm in. Let's do this. I agree with you, Raj. That's a great idea.
And it's self-regulatory because they're a frontline community. They're going to make sure that thing remains safe.
I love, you know what? I am actually literally considering putting that into my policies. That's a very good idea of adding that aspect to it. I love that. Thank you for that, Roger. I appreciate the call. Let me grab another call if I.
Hang on. I know you said the next person too. Number one, Larry Sharp, friends to the channel, has been on here a couple times. Larry Sharp and I don't agree on everything. Larry Sharp is a libertarian and I am a communist, but we agree. We have a lot of overlapping agreements. And the fact that something that I would be, game to consider. And I know there are risks with nuclear power, but if you do it with thorium versus uranium, thorium is considered to be a lot safer. And if the research is out there that, the risks are extremely low as compared to uranium-powered nuclear reactors, then I'd be willing to consider. But at the same time, it being, community owned, I'm all for that. It makes me think about the Tennessee Valley Authority, right? The Tennessee Valley Authority is basically a utility program that's literally community owned, and they have some of the lowest rates in the nation because it's community owned. It's not owned by some private entity. It's not owned by some group of shareholders. So it's things like that that I can kind of get behind, especially, if we couple that with renewable resources like geothermal, tidal, wind, solar, couple it together, that could be a game changer for us. And then couple that with using hemp and graphite and start using batteries with hemp instead of using it with lithium, which hemp, all we got to do is just grow it, and it from what I heard, hemp grows like a weed. It grows and grows and grows easily in multiple climates. So therefore, if we could do that, we can have something that's really self-sustaining that doesn't harm our environment, that gives us energy and energy storage. So I just wanted to say that really quick. All right, let's move on to the next one you said.
I can. Who is this?
Craig.
Craig, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Larry?
What's going on?
Well, I wasn't going to call in, but then Roger mentioned thorium nuclear reactors. And I said, well, I got to call in and say, yes, I agree. That sounds amazing. And Larry Sharp's had a plan for those in the North Country for a long time. And that would reduce our dependence on Canadian electricity so that when Trump starts trade wars, we would be insulated from those as well.
Well, I agree. But the part that I hadn't thought about as much, like I've always supported the concept of co-ops. If people want to do that kind of thing, please enjoy as you see fit. But the idea of trying to open it up with local communities being able to get a piece of it, it would do a couple things. It would, again, as Roger says, ensures it will be safe because these are the people who are physically there. If it's not safe, they are directly affected. But it also brings more money into communities that don't have a very big tax base. So that would help tremendously, getting money into communities without having to tax people more. I love that idea. And it goes on to something else. If they all have ownership, they're going to want to work there. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to have good working conditions because they work there and they have ownership. They will also have control over those working conditions.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to ruin the environment in which you live. And if it's owned by the community, that means there's no profit incentive, meaning the only money that you have to pay is money for operations. Some of the money would go to emergency funds and maintenance. Ultimately, there would be no profit. And then the money that we do pay, it will make sure that the members of the community who actually work there are paid a thriving wage. Okay, Roger, I see you. Let's finish this.
Doesn't matter if you have a union or not. If you have a union, good. If you don't, also good. The people working there own it. They are going to make better working conditions because they have the decision-making power. So I like all those issues. That was the piece.
Yeah, I like all those issues too because it's self-regulating, which means the feds, when they come in and try to kick your door down for building that stuff, it looks even worse because it's like we already are doing this the right way. We don't need you.
And the local community is not going to want them there, right?
Yes.
The local community would only bring them in if there was some issue that they couldn't handle, right? Something happens where the local community can't handle it, they would then call the feds in. And look, if local people are asking for government help, I'm not mad at that. They're saying, I can't handle it. Government, please help me. It's like the fire department. I'm asking the fire department to come put my house out. No worries. So I do think it works. It's a good idea. I got to figure out how do I mix that in. But that's not a bad idea. But I even go one step further as I think about it. It might even draw more people to the area. People who would want to have better schools, people who want to have, more housing because they want more people to be there. It would increase the odds of people moving closer to work there, right? You'd want to live in the area so you can work there. And because you live there, you get ownership in it. So you would by default be creating a co-op just by moving there. Roger, thank you for that, brother. That really makes me
nicely done, Roger.
Now. Nicely done, Roger. Nicely done.
Well done. Nicely done, Roger. Thank you very much. I love the thinkers in our community. Let's do a couple more chat. Uh-oh. Am I frozen? Oh, okay. Let's do a couple more and let's head on out. All right. So Christian says the United States is the only country in the world where your basic needs are big business. That's true. Thank you very much, Kate. Max says, have to go as usual, but you're so informative and you back it up with love, you forehead kisses. Thank you so very much, Kate. Max, you're such a sweetheart. All right. So, oh yeah, John Kemper says trickle down with some good propaganda. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Amanda says, hi, JB. Great show. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so very much. Let me see. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to head on out because I got to get going. But just as a reminder to you guys, as far as paying back people for the trip that I wasn't able to take, if you donate it on Spot Fund, like I said on Saturday, if you guys would like to, my email is in the chat. If you donate it, please let me know the name that you have on there, so that I can take a look at it and see, you know, your donation amount and things like that, so I can return it back to you if you would like that money back. It's not going to be possible for me for anonymous donations. I'm sorry, because I don't know like who it came from. So, because it could be somebody just going, hey, I donated money when they really didn't. And they're like, oh, I was the anonymous one. And next thing you know, I end up sending them like $15, $20, $25, $30 of that person's money. And then next thing you know, they're like, you know, running off with it. Or it could be like $100 and they run off with it. So the anonymous ones are going to be very difficult. I don't know how to get through that. But because I wasn't able to go to Seattle, if you feel like, yeah, I want my money back, then just, you know, my email is in the description. So if you guys would like to do that, you know, trying to make sure that, you know, I get it, you know, back to people, because unfortunately I cashed out before I went to the hospital. And so now there's no way that I can send it back to Spot Fund for them to send it all back. So beyond that, yeah, I just want to do that one little house cleaning thing. As far as this week, on RBN, we'll actually be having former RBN member Afeni on, along with Christian Smalls, the Amazon Warehouse Union, one of the founders. So we're going to be having them on. Me and Sabby will be having them on to have a conversation about general strikes. So tune in for that this Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't think I have a show going on this. Oh. And Afeni joins me again on this channel to talk about the same thing. So it's going to be great. So can't wait. So yes, I'll be seeing Afeni twice this week. So it's twice the Afeni, which is twice the goodness. You know what I'm saying? And then next week, of course, Jordan Sheridan will be joining me. We'll be talking about the poisoning of America. Really, it's about corporations that have been poisoning America. We're going to talk about, you know, Flint, Michigan. We're going to talk about East Palestine and what's going on there. We're going to talk about really the rollbacks that Donald Trump are doing in regards to a lot of things that are that keep our environment safe. And this does not exempt Democrats at all, because a lot of what Joe Biden did also was dangerous for the environment, but Joe Biden just did it with a smile. So we're going to be having conversations with that. And then also that evening, I'll be joining Jason Smith to talk about the West and how it deals with China. So we'll be talking about that. I'll be on his channel, so that'll be a great discussion to have. Anyway, thank you so very much to everybody. And look, you guys have yourself a good day. Thank you so much for sticking it out with me and staying with me for this. Look, and you guys, you know, have yourself a great day. Of course, for my channel, I'll be making this live stream into clips, so you guys have that available as well. So like I always say, you guys know what I'm about to say. What? Water your plants and water yourselves and leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them, right? And continue to fight against oppression in all forms. Learn to defend yourself. That's essential. And also come together with your community so that you have more strength in numbers. Okay. That's one thing I want to give to you guys. Also, shout out to People's Free Kitchen, Real Orlando, and Students for Justice in Palestine for the Solidarity Hub we did this Sunday. I put out a video about it. It was around 6 minutes about the Solidarity Hub. We actually did mutual aid in my local neighborhood, and we gave away, I think it's over 150 meals. There was toiletries, there were clothing, they were doing shaved ice, they were doing free haircuts, they were doing free hair washes. And then a guy with a guitar came over, started playing music and singing. He had us, he was, we were gone. And then towards the end, we started dancing with the local neighbors in the neighborhood. I mean, it was great. It almost turned into a block party. It was nice. So building community is what is going to save us. So if you guys can do that and try to do that within your neighborhoods as well. I know Katie Lewis is doing it for his area. So if you're in the East Coast and you want to try to reach out to Katie Lewis. He's doing some amazing work out there. Shout out to Tim, who is also part of the Orlando chapter that was with me for the Solidarity Hub on Sunday doing mutual aid work. It was a wonderful time, wonderful conversations, and wonderful bonding with the community that we had. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys for the Sabby and JB show on Thursday. Take care. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/JBFaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.